Hi everybody, welcome back to History Highlights with Laney. Hope you all are doing well. In today's video, I would like to pay a tribute to Malcolm X. Yes, Malcolm X. Malcolm X, born Malcolm Little, May 19, 1925, was an African-American Muslim minister and human rights activist who was a popular figure during the Civil Rights Movement. He is best known for his time spent as a vocal sportsman for the Nation of Islam. Malcolm spent his adolescence living in a series of foster homes or with relatives after his father's death and his mother's hospitalization. He engaged in several illicit activities, eventually being sentenced to 10 years in prison in 1946 for breaking and entering. In prison, he joined the Nation of Islam, adopted the name Malcolm X to symbolize his unknown African ancestral surname, and quickly became one of the organization's most influential leaders after being paroled in 1952. Malcolm X then served as the public face of the organization for a dozen years. He advocated for Black empowerment, Black supremacy, and the separation of Black and white Americans. He publicly criticized the mainstream civil rights movement for its emphasis on nonviolence and racial integration. Malcolm X also expressed pride in some of the nation's social welfare achievements, mainly its free drug rehabilitation program. Throughout his life, beginning in the 1950s, Malcolm X endured surveillances from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, also known or better known as the FBI. In the 1960s, Malcolm X began to grow disillusioned with the Nation of Islam, as well as its leader, Elijah Muhammad. He subsequently embraced Sunni Islam and the civil rights movement after competing the Jihad to Mecca. He became known as Malik el-Shabazz. After a brief period of travel across Africa, he publicly renounced the Nation of Islam and the founder. Throughout 1964, his conflict with the nation intensified, and he was repeatedly sent death threats. On April 21st, 1965, he was assassinated in New York City. 3 Nation members were charged with the murder and given life sentences. Speculation about the assassination and whether it was conceived or aided by leading or additional members of the nation, or with law enforcement agencies having persisted for decades after the shooting. And in 2021, a member of the police department passed away. He had written a letter years ago and said that he did not want that letter written until after his death. And when he passed away in March of 2021, the letter was opened and read, and it said that the FBI had a role in the death of Malcolm X. A controversial figure accused of preaching racism and violence, Malcolm X is also a widely celebrated figure within the African American and Muslim American communities for his pursuit of racial justice. In the United States, hundreds of streets and schools in the United States have been renamed in Malcolm's honor, while the Otto Ballroom, the site of his assassination, was partly redeveloped in 2005 to accommodate the Malcolm X and Betty Shabazz Memorial and Educational Center. Malcolm's early life. Born May 19, 1925, in Omaha, Nebraska. As a young child, his family had to leave Omaha because of KKK threats. Malcolm and his family moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And they only stayed in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a little while. And from there, they moved to Lansing, Michigan. While in Lansing, the family was harassed frequently by black and white racist groups. Malcolm's dad was accused of burning down his own home in 1929. When Malcolm was 6, his father died. What was ruled a streetcar accident, but his mom said he, Earl, which is the father of Malcolm, was murdered. After a dispute with the insurance company, Malcolm's mom, Louise, received a life insurance benefit of $1,000. Another insurance company refused to pay the larger policy, saying Earl committed suicide. Malcolm's mother, Louise, had a nervous breakdown in 1938 after a man vanished from her life after she became pregnant with his child. She was committed to Kalamazoo State Hospital. Malcolm and his siblings were separated and sent to foster homes. Malcolm and his siblings secured their mother's release 24 years later. Malcolm attended high school in Michigan, but in 1941 dropped out after a white teacher told him practicing law, his admiration at the time, was no realistic goal for a nigger. It was at that time Malcolm realized the white world offered no place for a career-oriented black man regardless of his talent. After dropping out of high school, he went from pillar to post, wherever he could lay his head for the next 2 years. In 1943, he moved to New York, Harlem neighborhood. He found work on the New Haven Railroad, where he became a Pullman porter. He also engaged in drug dealing, gambling, racketeering, robbing, and he was a pimp. He became friends with John Elroy Sanford, who would later be well known as Red Fox. He was summoned by the local draft board for military service in World War II. He said he had a mental disturbance and rambled and declared he wanted to get some guns and go down south and kill some niggers. Remember, his mother was in a mental institution for 24 years. He was ruled disqualified for military service. In 1945, while in Boston, Malcolm and 4 accomplices committed a series of burglaries targeting wealthy white families. In 1946, he was arrested while picking up a stolen watch he had left at the shop for repair. For that burglary, he served 10 years. While in jail, he studied how to become a Muslim and became a Muslim under the leadership of Elijah Muhammad. After getting out of jail, Malcolm and Elijah didn't see eye to eye on the direction of the Nation of Islam, and Malcolm was displeased with Elijah Muhammad's sexual behavior with young girls in the nation. And Elijah Muhammad also had a wife. It is rumored that Elijah Muhammad was jealous of Malcolm X because the media favored Malcolm over the leader, which was Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm left the Nation of Islam and founded Muslim Mosque Inc., a religious organization. He and Dr. King got to meet once, briefly, during the Civil Rights Movement. And at that point, they were beginning to convert, to come together with one another. But that did not come to fruition. Denzel Washington played the title role in 1992 motion picture Malcolm X. In 1958, he married Betty Dean Sanders. She was an educator and civil rights advocate. She and Malcolm had 6 girls, no boys. Famous quotes from Malcolm: "You put your hand in my cookie jar, you may lose your hand." Also, chickens coming home to roost. And my personal favorite one is "By Any Means Necessary." Also, Cassius Clay became a Muslim under the leadership of Malcolm X, who became a Sunni Muslim. They were best friends, and Cassius Clay became a Muslim, changed his name to Muhammad Ali under the leadership of Malcolm X. So happy birthday, Malcolm X. Malcolm X, one of my all-time favorite heroes. So there's a little bit of history on Malcolm. I could have said so much more. There's a lot to be said about people like Malcolm, but I'll leave it there for now. Be well, stay safe, and stay in peace, not pieces. Hit that bell so you will know every time I upload a video. Be well, stay safe, and stay in peace, not pieces. Word of the year: peace. Peace. Deuces.